Assalamualaikum and hello everyone, especially to Dr. Kilili, my course instructor and lecturer for TSLB 3353, Fundamentals of Educational Research in ESL. My name is Auni Qistina Binti Azrul, a pre-service teacher from IPG Tun Hussein On. Today, I'm honored to present my research proposal entitled TESOL Pre-Service Teachers' Perceptions on the Use of Digital Storybooks to Enhance Reading Fluency in Primary ESL Classrooms. I believe that this research holds meaningful value for the future of ESL teaching in Malaysia, and I'm excited to walk you through it. So, let's begin with some background. In Malaysia, English is taught as a second language in Malaysian primary schools under the CEFR-aligned KSSR curriculum. Yet, despite structured instruction and sufficient classroom time, many primary ESL learners continue to face serious difficulties, especially with reading fluency. Teachers have tried various approaches, but sometimes traditional methods like rote reading or teacher-led storytelling just don't cut it. That's where digital storybooks come in. With technology rapidly shaping education, digital storybooks have emerged as engaging tools to support language learning. They integrate text, animations, audio narration, and interactivity, providing learners with rich multimodal input. However, one crucial factor remains. Are our future teachers ready and equipped to implement these tools effectively? That's the heart of this research. Research shows that digital storybooks have the potential to improve reading fluency by boosting motivation and engagement. However, research has also shown that many pre-service teachers still lack the confidence, training, or digital literacy to use them effectively. Without proper readiness, the true benefits of digital storybooks may never reach the students who need them the most. This gap in understanding teacher preparedness is what inspired this research. This study has a clear goal: to explore TESOL pre-service teachers' digital literacy and readiness to use digital storybooks as a tool to enhance reading fluency in Malaysian primary ESL classrooms. By identifying their capabilities and challenges, this research will offer insights to improve teacher training programs and digital resource implementation in ESL education. There are three key objectives in this study. The first one is to examine the level of digital literacy among TESOL pre-service teachers. The second one is to assess their readiness to implement digital storybooks. And the last one is to investigate the relationship between digital literacy and readiness. The central research question is simple but impactful. Are our future teachers ready to integrate digital storybooks to boost reading fluency? Now, let's move into the heart of the research design. My hypothesis is simple but significant. There is a positive relationship between TESOL pre-service teachers' digital literacy and their readiness to use digital storybooks in ESL classrooms. This study focuses specifically on TESOL pre-service teachers from the 2021 to 2026 intake at selected Institutes of Teacher Education, or IPGs, in the southern region of Malaysia. What makes them ideal participants is that they've all at least completed one practicum session, which means they've had hands-on teaching experience with actual students. That real-world context makes their perspectives especially valuable. Now, every study has its limitations, and I acknowledge that this research is no different. Firstly, the sample is geographically limited to southern Malaysia, so generalization must be cautious. Secondly, it relies on self-reported data which can be influenced by social desirability. But despite that, I believe that this research can serve as a strong foundation for larger, possibly nationwide studies in the future. Alright, before we get into findings and frameworks, let's make sure we're all on the same page with a few of the key terms in this study. First, when I say TESOL pre-service teachers, I'm referring to trainee teachers like myself, those currently enrolled in programs that prepare us to teach English in Malaysian primary schools. Digital literacy in this context means more than just knowing how to click and swipe. It's about having the ability to navigate digital platforms confidently, to evaluate content critically, and to integrate technology meaningfully into the classroom. Next, readiness doesn't just mean having the tools. It's the confidence, the willingness, and preparedness to actually use them with purpose. Then we have the digital storybooks, which are not your typical PDFs or plain ebooks. These are multimodal, interactive, and narrated, designed specifically to support young learners in developing reading skills. And finally, reading fluency, a term we hear a lot in ESL. It refers to how well learners can read accurately, quickly, and with appropriate expressions. Without fluency, comprehension, and even enjoyment suffers. Let's dive into what previous research has found. Over the past decade, a number of studies have demonstrated the effectiveness of digital storybooks. For instance, Siampa 2012 discovered that digital storybooks help young learners with word recognition and reading motivation. Closer to home, Chu and Zainuddin 2018 found that Malaysian students who used digital storybooks showed greater improvement in reading speed and expression than those using printed storybooks. Khalmatova et al. 2024 also highlighted their impact, especially among low proficiency ESL learners who benefited greatly from the multi-sensory and engaging features. But, and here's the key point, while student outcomes are well documented, we know much less about the teachers who are expected to use these tools. Ye et al. 2024 and Berganio et al. 2024 found that while many pre-service teachers recognize the potential of digital tools, a lack of training and limited hands-on exposure holds them back. That's the gap I'm addressing, not the learners, but the future educators shaping those learners' experiences. Now, let's ground the research in educational theory. This study is framed by three well-established theories that support the use of digital storybooks in the ESL classroom. First, we have the TPEC framework, technological, pedagogical, content knowledge. This framework reminds us that knowing how to use tech isn't enough. Teachers need to know what they're teaching, content, how to teach it, the pedagogy, and how to use technology to support both. Then we apply Vygotsky's social cultural theory, especially the zone of proximal development. In this theory, learning is social and scaffolded. In this study, digital storybooks act as scaffolds, providing audio support, text highlighting, visuals, and interactive elements to help learners stretch their reading abilities. And finally, Mayer's cognitive theory of multimedia learning. This theory explains how dual channels, audio and visuals, enhance understanding when used thoughtfully. When teachers understand how to use these features intentionally, they're not just putting on a video, they're crafting a multimodal learning experience. So, the takeaway? These theories together validate why digital storybooks are effective and highlight why teacher training is crucial. This brings me to the conceptual framework, the visual roadmap of the research. On one side, we have digital literacy and readiness. These two are interrelated, and they directly influence whether pre-service teachers choose to use digital storybooks in their teaching. The outcome we're looking at is the dependent variable, the implementation of digital storybooks in the ESL classroom. When digital literacy is high and readiness is strong, teachers are far more likely to use digital storybooks, especially confidently and creatively. And when that happens, it supports our main goal, improving reading fluency in primary ESL learners. This framework is essential to shaping better teacher education modules that don't just teach what, but train how. So how do we put this into practice? This research uses a quantitative cross-sectional survey design. Why? Because it allows us to capture a broad snapshot of perceptions and readiness at a specific point in time. The data will be collected through an online questionnaire which is efficient, convenient, and accessible to the participants. I'll be distributing this questionnaire to a sample of 86 TESOL pre-service teachers from my BGK Tun Hussein on. This number is based on Krejci and Morgan's 1970 sampling table, which ensures sufficient statistical power and reliability. Once responses are collected, the data will be analyzed using SPSS software for accuracy, consistency, and meaningful insight. The goal is to uncover not just what pre-service teachers think, but why and what support they may need. Now, let's take a closer look at the research instrument used to collect the data. I designed a structured questionnaire divided into 4 sections, each tailored to answer a specific part of the research. Section A covers demographics, Section B focuses on digital literacy, Section C evaluates their readiness, and finally Section D explores their perceptions of how effective digital storybooks are for improving reading fluency. Each item uses a 5-point Likert scale ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And to ensure accessibility as well as convenience, the questionnaire will be distributed via Google Forms. This allows participants to complete it easily, even from their mobile devices, making the process smoother and more efficient. Of course, a good instrument isn't just about structure, it needs to be valid and reliable. To ensure content validity, the questionnaire items were adapted from 2 well-established studies. One focused on teacher trainees' acceptance of interactive ebooks, and the other examined digital literacy and attitudes toward online education. After adapting the items, I sought input from TESOL and educational technology experts who reviewed them for clarity, relevance, and alignment with the study's objectives. Then, I conducted a pilot study with 30 TESOL pre-service teachers. This helped me identify any confusing or ambiguous items and make the necessary adjustments before launching the actual survey. Now, for the reliability, I'll be using Cronbach's alpha, which measures internal consistency. A Cronbach alpha value of 0.7 or higher is considered acceptable, and I'll be aiming for at least that threshold. This process ensures that the instrument isn't just meaningful, but measures what it's meant to measure accurately and consistently. All the responses are in, the next step is data analysis, and here's how it will be done. First, I'll use a descriptive statistics to explore trends and digital literacy and readiness. This includes the mean standard deviation and frequency distribution for each item. It helps paint a clear picture of participants' general attitudes and skill levels. Next, to answer the third research question, I'll run a Pearson correlation test. This will tell me whether there's significant relationship between digital literacy and readiness and how strong that relationship is. Finally, I use a factor analysis to confirm the construct validity of the questionnaire. This analysis helps ensure that each item truly reflects the concept it's supposed to measure. By combining all three descriptive, inferential, and structural analysis, I can ensure that the findings are both rigorous and insightful. This method doesn't just answer the research question, it creates a reliable data set that can guide future studies, training programs, and even policy changes in ESL education. So now that you've seen the design, let's talk about why this research really matters. First and foremost, it fills a critical gap in Malaysian ESL research. While many studies focus on students, this one centers on the teacher, specifically future teachers who will soon be in classrooms, influencing the next generation. Second, it emphasizes the importance of digital preparedness in TESOL programs. We can no longer view digital tools as optional. In the context of Education 4.0, they're essential. Training must go beyond content knowledge and focus on how to teach in digitally rich classrooms. Third, this research has the potential to inform 1. Curriculum development in teacher training programs. 2. Professional development workshops. And technological integration policies at the institutional level. And finally, what makes this study truly meaningful is that it contributes to a more inclusive and engaging learning experience for ESL learners. When teachers feel confident and ready, their students benefit from more creative, interactive, and effective language learning. That's the future we should be working toward. And this study, in its own small way, aims to support that vision. Alright, to wrap everything up, let's revisit what this research is really about. The success of digital storybooks in improving reading fluency does not depend solely on the technology or the design of the tool. It depends on the person who uses it, the teacher. And for pre-service teachers, especially those still developing their teaching identity, the right exposure, skills, and confidence can make all the difference. This study aims to bridge that critical gap between the existence of powerful digital resources and the readiness of teachers to implement them effectively. My hope is that the findings from this research will encourage teacher education programs to integrate digital literacy training more deeply, provide insightful data for ESL curriculum developers, and ultimately help create richer learning experience for our primary ESL learners. Because when we empower teachers, we empower learners. And that to me is the most meaningful impact research can have. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I welcome any questions, feedback, or suggestions. I look forward to discussing how this research can contribute to the future of ESL teaching in Malaysia. Oh, what's that? Ah, I see. We have questions from someone calling in. Yes, go ahead.
Why did you choose digital storybooks specifically instead of other digital tools like games or videos?
That's a great question. Digital storybooks combine reading, visuals, audio, and interactivity, aligning directly with the goal of improving reading fluency. Unlike games or videos, digital storybooks place reading at the center while still engaging learners. They also support word recognition, prosody, and motivation in one tool, making them highly effective for language acquisition. Let's take another run. Let's go ahead, please.
Why focus on pre-service teachers instead of in-service teachers?
Excellent point. While readiness is crucial, systemic support from schools and the Ministry of Education is equally important. The findings could be a starting point for advocating better access and infrastructure. I hope that answers your question. Next one.
What if the teachers are ready, but the schools lack digital resources?
Pre-service teachers are the next generation of educators. By exploring their readiness and perceptions, this study contributes to shaping future training programs, especially for teacher training programs. Their views and preparedness will directly influence how classroom will look in 5 to 10 years. It's proactive rather than reactive. I hope that answers your question as well. Yes? Let's move on to the next one.
What if your results show no significant relationship between digital literacy and readiness?
Well, that outcome would be equally valuable, no? It would indicate that other factors, perhaps attitudes, teaching beliefs, or institutional support, might play a stronger role than digital literacy. It would open like doors for further research and a broader understanding of what drives readiness for tech integration. Can I have a final question? Yes.
If your hypothesis is proven correct, what will be your next step? If your hypothesis is...
I would propose incorporating compulsory digital storytelling modules in ESL training programs. I would also advocate for hands-on practice with digital tools during practicum and possibly create a framework or toolkit to support pre-service teachers in their digital resource planning. I sincerely hope that this video has shown the value and urgency of my research. I'm confident that by better preparing our TESOL pre-service teachers, we are investing in the future success of our English learners. Thank you again for your attention, your time, and your questions. Until next time, Assalamualaikum and take care.